Hello guys, this is Frank and I'm currently on the freebuild server in Modern Town, the contemporary apartment building district consisting of a few streets and probably more to come. This area has grown so much since we last showed it and it's looking so beautiful, I think. I'm so happy about the buildings here. Different styles, different colors. Looks really cool, I'd say. Here is the the police station, which I built. I'm not particularly good at modern, so I don't know if it's any good. Still working on it, to be honest, but I hope it will turn out well. Tommy actually did the original layout, but he's busy working with the modern town spawn at the moment, so I'll let him focus on that. I think it's an amazing building, by the way. So yeah, this is looking cool. But we do have some questions now and then. Users are wondering like, what materials can I use? And they're, these plots, they're not particularly big. Like, in general, they are between 13 to 16 blocks wide. And also, you don't have any rooms on the sides to place like windows and stuff. Because in cities, buildings do touch. There's not like a road between each building. That is completely incorrect. So, there's not like a super big amount of room to actually do designing. Now, on most buildings, you actually do have some design you can do on the back, because most of the buildings also have inner yards, as is common in cities, as far as I know at least, which I do wish a few more players might think about. Here we got the inner side of my horrible 80s building. I live in an 80s building myself, in a street which mainly has really fancy looking old buildings, and then I live in a horrible 80s building, so I thought it would be fun to build my horrible little 80s building here. I can stalk a bit through the windows and stuff. Yeah. First of all, we should probably take a look at some materials, I think. And first of all, some good materials to use. Now, I think that these materials are really good to use. Now, while these might not be available in Vanilla Survival, but however, in Vanilla Creative with the give command, you can get them in the store for cheap, and also these double half slabs as well. And of course we have the quartz, which is always nice, and really all shades of the clay blocks in general do look great on these buildings, I feel. Now, there are some block types, however, which I do not want to see being used. One of the block types are all kinds of logs. I don't want any kinds of logs on the apartment buildings, because I don't know a single apartment building in a city, in the whole world, which has logs on it. So these blocks are banned on exteriors on buildings, and there's no exceptions to that whatsoever. I don't want to see these at all. Now, and these are some blocks which they can sometimes work out in small amounts, in some details, but in general, do not use them in a big amount on a structure, because it will look just a slight bit too medieval. Just a slight bit. So yeah, there are exceptions to this, but in general, I would say no. And I don't think I had to place blocks like ores or netherrack or dirt here, because, well, it kind of says itself, doesn't it? And no fire and lava everywhere either. So we've taken a look at the materials, so let's now take a look at the plot sizes. Now, as you can see, the buildings are touching, just as in towns. It is very uncommon indeed that each building has a street in between them to make it possible to place windows on the sides. To be quite honest, I've never been to a city in my whole life where that is the case when it comes to these kinds of sized apartment buildings. When it comes to skyscrapers and such, then yes, but apartment buildings with this amount of floors? No. Nope, they do touch. Now this also means that you have a limited area to make your design. But you will also, in most kinds of buildings, you will also have a back, which is the inner yard, which is also common, which I kind of do wish a bit more players would actually consider when they build their apartment buildings, and it might be something which I will require in the future, that they do consider this as well. Now, another thing when you get your plot is that you have to think about, well, since the buildings are touching, you need to build all the way out on your red line. Now, I placed this building just a slight bit wrong here, just to show you how wrong it gets if someone would build here. Now, someone has to plot here, but this person who built here, which would in this case be me, oh my gosh, you got this weird little space here, which is just not natural at all. So build all the way out on the red line on your plot. You can, for a bit of shaping and stuff, you can, like a bit further up, like go like a block in or so. But do in general keep to this. There are some players, quite a lot of players actually, who has started to build, things like this because they're thinking, well, a building in Minecraft, if I just make it square, it's going to look, it's going to look boring. So I'm going to bring a bit of interesting shape into it, which in a lot of cases is perfectly true and perfectly correct. But when building structures like this, it is not. When building structures like this, square is the way to go. So, yeah. If you're going to build like a house out in the wilderness just by yourself though, like just a square building, wouldn't work out very properly. But when it comes to apartment buildings, they are square. So it is the preferable shape. However, you can do a bit of shaping in the front. You can really do. And I do recommend that you do it because getting some 3D feel into your building is usually a good idea. Because you don't have a lot of space for the front of the buildings, so to use that space in the best way and get the most kind of details and just shape into it is really, really good. Now this can be done in a lot of ways. Now this is one way of doing it, but yeah. Another building, another player which has done it really, really well, I feel. Let's get the name up by doing this, is Norbert. Now Norbert, he's done a lot of nice shaping in his build here, and he's actually used some of the blocks which I would personally not recommend to use usually, but his build are one of the exceptions to this rule because he's using it really nicely. It doesn't look medieval at all, it looks quite modern and it looks quite good. And he's also done quite a lot of nice shaping here in the front, so this is a really, really good example of what you can do in the front to make it look detailed and nice even though you don't have a lot of space. Now, another thing to consider with these builds are the height of the street. Now, this is normal block height, but the sidewalks are a half step up. So what this means is that with your doorways, you will either have to go one step down or one step up at least. Usually a bit more to make it look properly. Now, this might seem like a bother to some people, but actually it's quite a good thing. Because in real life, you will not find doorways that are the same level as the street level. Usually they go up. In some cases, they go down. And so do think about that. And yeah, don't make it the same level as the street level, because that is so uncommon. The only thing I really see it in cities are garage ports and nothing else. So we do have this option of going one step up, or you can go several steps up with a little stairway, like what is done here. Since this block is regular, since it is now broken, there we go. And there is also, of course, the option of going down a bit, which I must say I have never seen in Sweden, but in a lot of cities abroad. A third thing to consider about this is that in cities, windows are very, very rarely on the ground level. Because let's say that your window is here and your bedroom is here or your kitchen and whatever, then everyone can just look straight into it and any burglar could just break the window and go in and steal all of your stuff, which is kind of not a good thing. In the building I live in, personally, we just have this blank wall outside, and when you enter the building, we got a hallway, and then we got rooms for like bicycle storage, garbage disposal, disposal for things like the electronics and stuff like that. That is very common, as far as I know. Here we got the example, which is not very common in Sweden, but I've seen in quite a lot of countries abroad, where you do have the windows a bit further down, but you have this little yard and a gate here which seals it off. And yeah, you got this little depressing yard, which I'm sure like gathers like so much sewage and stuff like that. Sewage. But yeah, it's kind of a cool design, and it breaks things off a bit. So even though the buildings are touching, you still get like different levels and stuff, which is nice. Now, of course, the third option to this is to make a storefront. Storefronts are very, very common, at least on busy streets, and it works out quite nicely to have a storefront and then apartments above. Works out quite nicely. It's a very good alternative. There are a few other alternatives as well, but I think that these are, probably the most common ones. And I hope that can help out with creating your doorways and stuff like that. Now, this is the apartment area district. Contemporary apartment area district. Which means that we do, of course, want apartments in our buildings. There are a few things to consider when you make apartment buildings. One thing that is really good is to make sure that you have floors that are more than one block thick. It's not something you have to do, but it is a good recommendation to do. And make sure when you're placing the buildings that it actually works out with your apartments. Now let's take a look here. So okay, we got a wooden floor here, and we got a white roof. Now all of the plots in this town, if they are going to be considered to be finished, they have to be furnished. They have to be complete. If you don't like doing that, well, maybe you can get some friends to help and stuff. But before it is finished, it won't be considered complete, and you won't be able to claim another plot. So yeah, do think about that. If we go up one level further in my horrible little 80s building here, another thing which can be good to consider indeed, which I kind of forgot in the first buildings I made, make a good space for your stairways. do that. We do have an elevator plugging in as well, but yeah, on short buildings like these, I feel that stairways are usually better. Now we do remember that the ceiling in the last apartment, it was white, and now we got a wooden floor here. And yeah, that is really good. It's really good. It's not something you have to do, but it will be helpful in your design for sure, because you will have much more freedom in lighting and which floors to choose and stuff like that, because you will be able to put lighting in roofs and stuff, which is really good. It's really good. It makes things a lot easier. So I would advise on doing that. But most importantly, do plan your apartments according to how things work. Actually, I decided not to finish this apartment building entirely before I made this tutorial, because I wanted to give you just some tips on how to plan the rooms. Now, when I plan rooms, I usually place a block type like this, like wall. Not only as the walls, but also as furniture I am imagining in the rooms. Now, in this case, this would be a bedroom. So this would be the bed. Maybe this would be like a little bench. I think in here that what I have planned is a wardrobe. A huge one, because it's nice, And in here we have another bedroom, a smaller one. And I think we have a desk here, a bed here, drawers here. And here we have a second set of living room. We have a sofa, a little sofa table, a television. I do think I might bring something else in here, like some kind of instrument of some kind, if I at any point in my life learn how to build them properly. They are really hard to build. So yeah, those are some basic pointers on how to do apartment buildings. If you don't want to make apartment buildings on the server, you don't have to. But if you choose to build in an apartment building area, that is what you have to do. If you want to build something else, like a bank or like a discotheque or whatever, then, you know, there's always the wild. You can always choose to build there, and there are more plots coming as well, which will, you know, have different kind of styles of buildings. But if you choose to build in a spawn town, in a certain district of it, then you have to follow the rules in that district. Now, for those of you guys who watch my videos but not play on the server, but you know, you want to build towns and stuff, maybe this video could be good pointers for you. I hope it could be, at least. And that it was not like a total waste of time for you to watch my little video. And also, guys, I do excuse for me sounding weird or something like this. I have not been recording for a while, and I am kind of struggling with some of my early noob mistakes when it comes to video. One of the problems is that, oh my god, English is such a wet language. So I hope I will become used to that as well again. So guys, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful and that you will get a few pointers on how to work with apartment buildings. This is Frank. Bye bye.